You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, it's Friday the 28th of February 2025 and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And today is the release day of the 7th book in the Bow Street Society series. And I'm here talking to the author of the book today, the lovely T.G. Campbell. Tani, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, good stuff, actually. A little bit jet lagged. I'm recording this a couple of days in advance. I won't pretend I'm not. And yes, quite tired. But yeah, so book number 7.
I know. I can't believe it. It's already book number 7.
Yeah, because you're is it a secret to say how many at the moment you're planning or
No, you can say yes. So it's at the moment it is planned to be 10 books in the series.
excellent.
So
So that's quite a 70% of the way there. That's quite a significant moment, isn't it?
oh
Uh,
yeah.
so for somebody who doesn't know, because I talk about it on my podcast quite a lot, tell me about what the Bow Street Society is.
So in a nutshell, so the British Society is a group of amateur detectives. They live and operate in Victorian London in 1896, 1897. And basically each member of the society has a normal job as well as being a detective. So there's an architect, doctor, illusionist, artist, and they use their skills and knowledge from the ordinary jobs to investigate and solve the cases that are assigned to them by scientist clerk Miss Rebecca Trent. So depending on what case they get commissioned to investigate, depends on who she assigns. It depends on what skills and knowledge is needed.
So it's fair to say you've basically got a bit of a rotating cast of characters and not everybody appears in every book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so how long did it take you? Did you create all the characters first or because I mean there's not all the characters are in the first book, for example.
No.
So when you created the first book, did you know that characters like Lady Alston and the others are introduced in book 2? Had you already planned them or were they created specifically for that book?
So yeah, so Lady Alston and Miss Agnes Webster, her secretary, were actually created specifically for the second book, Case of Lois Lushington, because so that focuses on Oxford Street and department stores, and she is a fashion journalist, so that's her speciality. And the same with so in book 3, the spectral shot, Mr. Callahan Skinner, who is the guns expert, he again was created specifically for that book, as well as Mr. Virgil Verity, who is a spiritualist and retired school teacher. So very much sort of as much as Miss Trent sort of sees who she's got in her collection, I sort of created people and assigned them in my own mind for each different case, the different characters.
That's brilliant. And that's still going on because we've got a relatively new character that started, well, it might have been in book 5, and I'm struggling to remember the name, but the gentleman who might be working in more than one direction at the same time. Remind me of him.
So it's Dr. Neil Colbert. So he is actually the resident physician at Bethlehem Hospital. So basically, the asylum, also colloquially known as Bedlam. But he also has an interest in physiognomy, which is like the truth of the face and how the face can sort of tell you something about a person's personality. So he's sort of got interest in that. But so that's the basis that he's assigned as a member to the British Society to see basically if you could tell if someone's lying just by how their face sits and that sort of thing. But I say, yeah, he very much is playing both sides of the battlefield, shall we say. So it's known to the reader, not necessarily known to the society members, that he is also working secretly for the Metropolitan Police as like a little mole in their group.
It's very, very interesting stuff. Now, this is book 7. This one is called The Curse of the Fatal Flaw.
The case of the fatal flaw, yeah.
No, the curse, sorry, the case of the fatal
The
flaw.
curse, yeah, the curse, because yeah, it's book 7. It's like, when will it end?
So what can you tell us about the story in this particular book?
So each of the British Society books do tend to have a theme. So say like the second one had department stores, Spectral Shot had like spiritualism. This one centres very much around a theatre, so a fictional theatre in the West End in London, and sort of the microcosm of society that is found in that theatre. And somebody within that theatre company is brutally murdered, and the society have to be called in basically to investigate because somebody else in the theatre is basically blamed for that death. So they hire the society to investigate, to basically clear their names. So they can go back to work in the theatre.
Excellent stuff. And this one's been quite a while in the writing, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it's been actually about 2 years since I released The Case of Pugus Ploy, which was the boxing one. That was book 6. and this one, partly because I also was planning to do book 7, 8, and 9 as well to do the society, the series Bible, and also doing the research, a lot of research. But this is actually um, the longest in the series. So the actual print paperback copy is over 600 pages long. So it's quite a bit of a beast of a book. And then when I was writing it, I didn't realise it was going to be as long, but because it's not just the mystery, it's also the character subplots that are developing. It's quite a major incident and development happens to one of the characters, one of the key characters in this book. So all that sort of research and build up to that obviously has to take place around the book. So, but normally I try to release a book a year. So I normally try to release a main book in the series and also a short story collection per year. So I'm sort of moving back towards that schedule now.
Excellent. Right. Now, I was lucky enough to be one of the beta readers for this book. In fact, I think is this the third one I've done? I think it's the third one I've done for you. So, and I do mention you in my podcast quite
Yeah.
a lot. So would you like to explain how we know each other?
Yeah, so I remember being it's a place Waterstones called Cafe W. So I started going there because there's actually a group in Milton Keynes where I live, which originally started with National Novel Writing Month, just a group of writers who would meet up just to sort of share their love of writing and to read each other's stuff and just basically just generally socialise. And I remember sitting there, one of the other writers there, and Andrew came in. He's like, "Hello," and he's like, "I've not been here before," and got chatting, didn't we, about sort of our books. And I remember you ordered The Curious Client there and then, and also our other friend's book as well. And it just sort of went from there, really, didn't it? It was just one of those chance meetings, as they say, that, I think it was fate.
And you have actually genuinely influenced my writing process. So you mentioned NaNoWriMo there,
Yeah,
and the way they encourage you to do your writing is to do the whole first draft and then edit it. And I have to say, it nearly killed me because whilst the first draft is a joy to write,
yeah,
the second draft, which is basically a massive tidy up usually,
yeah,
is just hell.
it is.
So I'd love you to talk me through your writing process, and I've mentioned in my podcast a few times that you have influenced it because I have changed my model of writing. So yeah, tell us about how you do your writing.
So, like I say, when I first started getting into writing, I did that sort of technique of get the whole draft written and then go back. And I just found personally that it was just too much, like I say, of a mountain to climb. And I couldn't hold in my head all different details. Because with a mystery, you very much have to, some people don't, but I very much have to plan my plot out, plan my mystery out, get the red herrings, the clues. And I just couldn't go back and sort of revise that and edit that if it was one big massive draft. So I very much so first of all I went away from having one single file. So I have each chapter in a different file, but I very much write in order and I edit as I go along, which some people say to you, no, don't do that, you'll never get a book finished. But actually I found it a lot quicker process because once I get to that final edit of the main draft, a lot of the problems have already been resolved. So I will write a scene and then go back and edit that scene until I'm happy with it. There are various things that I'll look at in that editing process, not just like, does it sound good? Like stuff like consistency, character motivation, character actions, anything to clues, obviously descriptions generally, like locations and research and things. And it is very much, it's so much easier to have that bit of a more targeted edited approach because you just look at that one section rather than thinking, oh, I've got like 200,000 words to hold in my head while I'm writing it, when I'm editing it, sorry. So that is very much the technique I use. And it's very, I say the common technique is to do one big draft and then go back and edit it. And people are quite surprised when I always say, when I edit as I go along and they say, well, how many books have you written? And they think I'm going to say, oh, I'm still in the same book for like 5 years. Like, oh, no, I'm on now book 7. They're like, oh, okay. So I think that sort of it's going against the stereotype of somebody who edits as go along. It's just a bit of a, what's the word? They take too much time. Procrastinator. It's such a procrastinator, and they don't really know what they're doing, and they just that's why you shouldn't do editing to go along. But I think once you get more confident in your own writing style and what your vision is, you can edit as you go along because you've got more of that experience and knowledge of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean that's the model that I've adopted. So when I started, the first two books I wrote were entirely the first way, and I hated the editing process on both of them, particularly the second draft.
Yeah,
And what I found now is, well, I've been writing the book I'm nearly finished now for on and off not consistently, for about 5 or 6 years. And I decided when I came back to it, after a very long gap, to switch to a similar model. So what I actually did was edited all of the chapters up till that point,
Yeah.
and now I'm literally on a write edit model. I think so. You almost edit scenes as you go, don't
I
you?
do scenes, yeah, rather than chapters. I do because I normally have 3 or 4 scenes in one chapter. I think whereas your chapters, I think very much like tend to be one scene, don't they? So it makes more sense. It's kind of the same sort of thing, but obviously your chapters tend to be like one scene, so that's why you do chapters rather than scenes. But it is sometimes just kind of feel like you're watching one scene from a TV program over and over and over again. But it's definitely worth it when you start to see the story
Yeah.
emerge and the book emerge. It's definitely worth doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I've so literally, I think I wrote the first 31 chapters of Empress of the Trees
Mm,
the original way, and
yeah,
then I had to edit them all to get to the point. And then when I picked it up and continued, I've been doing exactly the same as you, write, edit, write, edit. And
yeah,
um, I think it's probably the only reason I'm going to get this thing finished, because if I'd done it the other way, it's enormous. It's a lot bigger than anything I've
yeah.
written before. And I think if I'd tried to write it the way I had originally, I don't think it would have ever happened. And I'm really pleased that you suggested it, because I specifically remember we were sitting in Cafe W when
Yeah.
you said, "Oh, well, have you thought about doing it this way?" And I'm sure I initially went, "Yeah, no, well, yeah, no, I have, but no, I'm not going to."
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and it is definitely working for me. As I say, I'm not going to lie, I am recording this in advance, so hopefully when this goes out, I will have finally finished that first draft
Fingers
of
crossed.
this. Fingers crossed indeed. But if I haven't,
Just keep poking him until he does, don't worry.
well, I will be very, very close.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the audience will already know, because they'll have heard me either commiserate with myself for not meeting my target for the end of the month, or congratulate myself. But brilliant.
But I still think even if you don't hit your target at the end of the month, I think the rate of what you're working at now is a lot quicker than previously. I think so. You should be very proud of actually having that motivation and actually that speed of working now, I think.
Yeah, and I'm actually enjoying it as well. Although I think one of the things you said, one of the reasons possibly I was procrastinating a little, was because I'm not looking forward to not being with these characters anymore, because I really when it's like you with your characters, you
Yeah.
adore your characters, you know them backwards,
Yeah.
and you worry when you write that, is this consistent with their personality and stuff like that. I mean, I've got to the point where I sometimes have a plan for the chapter, and then the characters just don't play ball, and you're like, I've worked around that, because my original plan didn't work. But then sometimes that's a nice thing, because in the bit I've just hopefully just finished writing as we speak, I decided to give two characters one more little trial before something nice happened to them. And then I wrote it, and I literally was writing, it's like, oh no, the nice things happen now. What's going on? I just
Yeah.
thought, you know what? I've given these guys enough grief up until this point. Perhaps it might be quite nice to do something quite nice for them. But yeah. So no, genuinely, thank you for that suggestion, because it has made a big difference to the way that I am now working. And
Good.
hopefully, as a result, I'm getting somewhere. You are actually the only other voice that's ever been on my podcast, apart from some weird Spotify driven thing. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on here today. The new book is available from today. It's The Case of the Fatal Flaw, Bow Street Society Mystery, and it's available from
Amazon or through Kindle Limited, paperback and ebook format.
Tani. Thank you very much. I will be back at some point tomorrow. Thank you. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.